Night was a tough one for the Cubs. Not only did they get shut out for the second straight night in Atlanta, but Nico Horner, a late scratch with a tight hamstring. What is the deal with all of the hamstrings? What's going on with this? We're going to get into that. Christopher Morel's gimpy, fouled one off of his foot and maybe his best at bat of the season. Jed Hoyer said the best at bat of the season happened a couple of nights ago in the ninth inning. And then he gets hit on the foot by a pitch inadvertently. And you can tell he's in a lot of pain. Good to see Tyson Miller back in a Cubs uniform. Jose Cuas looked pretty good. Hey, man, give him credit and more. We're going to talk about all that right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Make sure you like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up if you like the Cubs. And let's get this thing going right now. It's there's brighter days coming, my friends. It's only one game. Not really two. Everybody, he's Anthony Pasquale. I'm Mick Gillespie. Welcome to the Cubs Baseball channel where we talk Cubs baseball every single day. I don't even know the last time we didn't have a show come out in the morning. And then, they made a trade. Boom, 11 o'clock. There I am back on the scene again a couple of nights ago, right? So that's what this is all about, Ant. But I guess it's really hard to find the silver lining in all of these hamstring injuries. And Nico Horner, the latest with a hamstring injury. First off, the impact of him being a late scratch. And then what in the hell's going on with these hamstrings?
Yeah, you kind of mentioned it. We're here every day, so that means we kind of live and die with this team. And right now we're dying. The last few games have not been too fun to watch. They've just looked so lifeless offensively. But getting to these injuries, Nico Horner, a late scratch yesterday before the game with a tight hamstring, which immediately put me into a panic because he was finally going to lead off and the lineup finally looked good. Happ was getting a day off because he's been struggling. Then all of a sudden you're like, okay, who the hell is going to play shortstop? We don't really have one right now. Dansby Swanson's on the IL. Then next thing you know, Miles Mastrobuoni, a left-hander, gets a start against Chris Sale. Pete Crow Armstrong, a left-hander, gets a start against Chris Sale. Now, it doesn't matter who they put out there yesterday. Chris Sale was going to mow him down. He was dealing. I think he had 9 strikeouts, I want to say.
Yeah.
It could have been even more. Yeah, 9 strikeouts in 7 innings pitched. Sox fans are probably happy. Chris Sale and Dylan Cease beat the crap out of us this year so far.
Right. Aaron Bummer, like the old Sox.
Yeah, exactly. Reynaldo Lopez the other night, too. But, Horner's just one of those guys that you need on your team. He keeps your team going. He's the energy, he's the spark, and right now without Swanson, he's the leader. So you really, really need him out there. And because it was a late scratch with a tight hamstring, to me it feels precautionary so they can, rest him yesterday and use him for the rest of the series. If not, things could get really ugly with Madrigal and Mastrobuoni and Wisdom out there every night.
Yeah, I thought they should have brought up Vasquez a couple of days ago, like I said on the show, because he plays shortstop. Not even worrying about the hitting, but just the ability to play shortstop. Now Nico's playing short, and everybody seems to get hurt with these hamstrings this year. The Cubs have to examine internally what's going on right now with their strength and conditioning. They just have to, and I'm not saying that there's a correlation or there's not, but enough's enough. I mean,
yeah.
Is this just another coincidence? I mean, Suzuki had one, Happ had one, he's had one, it just seems like there's a lot of these muscle injuries this year and hamstrings. It seems like it's a lot more than normal to me.
I agree. And I think it's not only Cub-wise, but across baseball. And I actually read a recent article about the oblique injuries being heightened.
Mm-hmm.
And similar to Tommy John, those are up because everybody's trying to throw as hard as they can, throw as hard as they can, throw as hard as they can. The obliques are up because everybody's trying to swing as hard as they can.
Yeah.
Their body's just not made for it. And you saw that stat about all those high bat speed in the league a few days ago. All those guys are very frequent oblique injury IL type of guys too. Just look at Stanton. He can't stay healthy for a full year, but he swings the bat harder than anybody in the league.
Yeah.
But those hamstrings are always interesting, and I feel like they're always heightened in April and May. And I don't know if it's because some cold weather, then back to warm weather, then back to cold weather, or whatever the case may be. But the Cubs can't keep losing guys to soft tissue, non-contact injuries. I think that's one of the things that is so frustrating for baseball fans because, if you like football and you see a guy get his ankle rolled over, you're like, oh, I saw it. I see that he's hurt.
Yeah, right.
In baseball, it's just like right before the game, you find out this guy's going to be out for 15 days. And you're like, when the hell did he get hurt? It just doesn't
what
make
happened
sense.
here?
Exactly. And I think that can be frustrating. And especially when it's, a hamstring, an oblique. Like Cody Bellinger, a broken rib, you get that. That's a bone break. You have to sit out for that.
Right. Or Morel.
Yeah, Morel. I mean, at least that one we saw. Actually, to be fair, 2 nights ago, it didn't look like the ball hit him. It must have just nicked the top of his foot. But we mentioned that great at bat. Then yesterday gets hit on the same foot in the same spot. I mean, you can't buy a break right now with these Cubs. And it just felt like right when you were getting there to full health with Steele and Bellinger and Suzuki, there goes Swanson and there goes Morel and there goes Tyone with the stiff back and all these guys in the bullpen too.
Yeah, good points. Morel's foot's obviously hurting. I mean, it wasn't a direct hit, but just the jar of being nicked like that was painful, and you could feel it. And like you said, it's a little easier to deal with that just because you saw him get hurt in that at bat, and then obviously that's where it came from, and it's a contact injury. Talking about Morel, I heard Jed Hoyer on The Score, and they love the stats. They love the analytics on some of those shows, and not a shot to the host, but they'll hammer those things out and over again and different stuff. And I heard him talking about Morel and the bat speed. Hey, because he's got the best bat speed, what does that mean? It really did hit me right in the heart when Jed Hoyer said, yeah, it's great, but you still have to make contact. You still have to do this. You still have to do that. He was like, you have to see the ball and hit it. You have to react. Like, there's so much more to it than just analytics. And there's no analytic for how your eyes see the ball to the bat, how you approach at bats. Like you can swing as hard as you want, but if you don't make the contact, that's why I'm excited about Morel. And I hate to see him going through this, with the toe, and who knows how long that's going to last, because you see that process going on in his head right now where he's at the plate and now that his foot's hurt, the Cubs don't have him to bail them out on nights like the last 2 nights with his home runs. Right. And I think that's a little concerning too, but the Braves are tough. Look, the Braves were the World Series champions of the regular season last year.
Yeah, they were unbelievable all season long. They were setting records left and right. They had, the most home runs on a team. They had a 40-70 guy, but obviously
it didn't matter in the playoffs though, because they were right
exactly. It doesn't matter in the playoffs, but when you face them in the regular season, man, they're tough to beat, huh?
Tough,
it's going to be especially at their place. But
so good,
you mentioned Morel. There's 2 things about it. The first thing, I think you might even said it yesterday, when you're swinging that hard, the foul balls that hit off you are going to come at you a lot faster anyway.
Yeah.
And the other thing is making contact. Yeah, that's the name of the game. Like everybody was juicing in the 90s, but nobody hit as many as Barry. Like he was just so much better at just bat to ball than anybody. And that's why he hit the most home runs, because he was the best hitter that was on Roy, So it's going to be tough, but Morel, hopefully this doesn't derail him too much, because his at-bats have looked so good over the last week and a half that he's taking walks, he's fouling pitches off, and then he's waiting for the one that he can drive instead of swinging out of his shoes at every pitch.
Yeah, no doubt. And this team right now, to me, is, it's dealing with some issues. I mean, Ian Happ isn't producing, and, it sounds like he's pretty frustrated with what's going on. Wasn't in the lineup, obviously, yesterday. Morel's got the foot thing going. Suzuki and Bellinger just getting back off of the IL. Now you got Dansby on the IL. You got Nico dealing with an injury. We'll see what happens there, and it's like you can't catch a break, and then to me, I thought that Miguel Amaya looked like a guy that you worry about behind the plate in the game, just not being able to block. And that's what makes Yan Gomes so good. That's why I've said this before too. The lack of depth at catching in the organization is something to be concerned about.
For
And that
sure.
hasn't even been an issue yet, which is crazy because we've had all of these other issues. So, we'll see what happens. But the good news is that Jose Cuas came back and did a good job, I thought. I mean, like he pitched 2 solid innings. And in those innings, you know what? I think he was probably the best we've seen him.
Yeah, I agree with you there. When he got sent down after that April 10th game against the Padres, his ERA was at 12. And now in 2 games back in the pros, in May here, he's got a 7.20. So it's already gone down 5 runs because he's pitched 4 scoreless innings and only allowed 2 hits. So I think obviously the 17 strikeouts in 8 innings or whatever that it was back in Iowa put him in the right mental space, and he's got some confidence. And he pitched, 4 scoreless since coming back. So hopefully that's a guy you can start to count on. Obviously yesterday was low leverage. It was a 7-0 game. So you'd like to see him get back into some of those high leverage spots. But the fact of the matter is he pitched well when you put him into pitch. And that's more than you could have said a month ago.
Yeah. Yep. No, I'm with you. Good job there. And then Tyson Miller back. This was a story that broke late a couple of nights ago that finally Jake Slaughter was going to get the chance that he didn't get with the Cubs. I don't think the Cubs were ever going to bring him up, no matter how well he played. I don't think they liked his swing. I don't think I just think there were things about his game that they just didn't think would translate, and they didn't want to give him a chance. Another organization may say, hey, you know what? The numbers tell us what we need to know. The guy goes out there and produces, he gets the job done. And so, if you weren't going to keep Tyson Miller anyway, seems like a pretty good trade-off if you're the Mariners, right? I mean, you're getting a guy who has hit over 20 home runs, like 3 straight seasons, or it probably will, AA, AAA, and then doing it again this year. So we'll see. And he may get to the big leagues sooner than later there, depending on what their situation is, because I think they have trouble scoring runs. Like they're an organization that can pitch, but they can't hit. They may say, hey, you know what? Ugly or not, we'll take those 20 home runs on this team.
Yeah, it's kind of like the perfect team to trade with for the Cubs. Seattle has this influx of pitching that they can deal from, and not like we don't. Like we have a ton of starters, but we're looking for help in the back end, and the Mariners still have a lot of that in their system. And their current third and second baseman, I think, are both hitting below 200. So that's why you go get a guy that plays second and third base and potentially bring him up. It just seemed like it works for both teams' need. The Cubs were desperate to get some guys that could get outs in the bullpen, whether it's in the 5th when your starter comes out early or in the 7th or 8th. Like, you still need guys to get those outs. And we talked about how good the starting rotation has been as of late. And with the exception of Shota Imanaga, all the other guys are kind of starting to come back down to earth a little bit. Assad hasn't been getting as deep into games. Tyone got rocked a little bit. Steele even got hit pretty hard against the Pirates. So now you're looking to get to that bullpen a little bit earlier than maybe you have over the last couple of weeks, which of course has exposed how thin this bullpen is. So good on Jed for acting fast. I doubt this will be the last move he makes to address the bullpen, but in his Cubs debut, he pitched 2 scoreless innings yesterday. So good to have Miller back on the north side.
Yeah, no doubt. And, going back, one other note that I want to follow up on with Nico is that tweaked his hamstring during batting practice, and they're going to reevaluate it today. So just an FYI on that. So I would think Luis Vasquez has a good chance of being brought to the roster, just because you can't have a left-handed hitting shortstop. I mean, you know what I mean? Like with Miles, I wouldn't think, although I didn't think Miles went out there and didn't hang, but Vasquez is a better defender. So we'll keep an eye on that moving forward. And talking about coming back, how about Ethan Roberts? You remember Ethan Roberts finally got to the big leagues, doing his thing, then Tommy John, and then the long road back, but he joined the AA Tennessee Smokies, and it's the first time he's been in full season baseball in a while.
Yeah, I think since either 2020 or maybe 2021. It's been a while for sure. So good to see him back. He's a guy I know you're going to see a lot of him in Tennessee. So he's a guy I'm excited to hear you talk about in the future, because this is obviously a guy that the Cubs viewed in their long-term bullpen when he was up before the injury. And I'm sure he's a guy that they view once he gets back to full health can be in their bullpen long-term. So I wouldn't be surprised. I know it'd be hard to see him in the big leagues this season just because he's just getting back, but don't sleep on Ethan Roberts. He works harder than anybody.
Yeah, I'd love to see him help out. I mean, at this point, you know, it was 2022 that he pitched last for the Cubs, and be great to, you know, have that story. But you're right, it's a long road back, and so we'll keep an eye.
I mean, it has to change.
It's got to. We're better than we're playing right now, but this is just kind of the perfect storm of things not going the team's way, you know, as they head in there. But don't forget, we got the watch party coming up on Friday.
Yep.
Another watch party with you guys. So book us in to hang out and then watch a little bit of Cubs baseball against the Pirates. And how about the fact that it's going to be Skeens?
Yeah, we're going to see. It might be Skeens Steele again, right?
It could be. Yeah, I don't know who if the Cubs go Steele, if he lines up there, but it is Skeens.
Because I would guess, just based off of the way the last series went, if it's Ben Brown today, Thursday should be Assad, which would mean Steele Friday.
Yeah, so we got the rematch.
Yeah, we got Jones. We're facing Jones on Thursday too, who's another real good pitcher for the Pirates. So we're getting their best, and we're going to give them our best, and hopefully our best is better than their best.
Yeah. Look ahead, folks, because we're going to eventually start. We're going to score runs again.
It has to
happen. Hey, comment section. Hit us up, and we'll talk to you guys again soon. Thanks for hanging out. Go Cubs.